Announcement has been paid for by the Spike Week order.
Hey, yo. Everyone's been asking me, Rob, what is the Spike Week Royal Rumble winner going to get? Well, listen here, monkey boys. Take a look down here. You see this? Cameraman, switch back to color. Zoom in a little bit. This is the Spike Week Order Championship belt. And what's going to happen is the winner of this best ball contest is going to win this bad boy right here. So they get to take this home. But the thing is, it's going to be me. No one else. Survey says another one for the bad guys.
The preceding announcement was paid for by the Spike Week order.
That's a much more fun intro than all the other intros that we usually have. I'm glad we did that. I'm glad I'm here for tonight. I'm excited for the show, but for a quick teaser for anybody that hasn't been paying attention to the Spike Week Twitter, to Rob's Twitter, to my Twitter, or whatever, we're doing a really fun event. I think that everybody is really going to enjoy, and you got to see the belt that Rob purchased.
The championship.
So I'm very excited for that. Go ahead.
At Spike Week, clearly what we do is buy a $300 title, immediately spray paint it, because what else are we supposed to do, right? So the winner of this contest, the names that have already been announced are Eric, myself, Peter Overzet, Gretchen Siegel are going to be a tag team, those damn banana boys. Pat Carrane's going to freeze halfway through the draft at some point.
Freeze frame Carrane, right?
Freeze frame Carrane. It's the name. It seems to be the one that's sticking most out of all of them.
It's
People
really
seem
good
to enjoy that one. So yeah, freeze frame Carrane's going to be in there. Liam Murphy, he's in there as well. Did we announce Davis? Davis kind of announced himself.
I actually don't know if he announced Davis.
Yeah.
He's so little. He falls through the cracks of these things. But I'm super excited. The more we get into kind of some of the obviously fun promo material, I think it's going to be awesome. So we got a belt ready. We've done some of the announcements. You've seen Rob get hit with a chair by Peter. You've seen DDTs. You've seen all sorts of fun stuff already going on, and there's only more to come. So we wanted to start tonight with a little intro to what is to come on a fun event, a best ball Royal Rumble this summer. But let's just get it. Let's hit the intro to this one. Let's reverse. Let's hit the intro to this one, and then we'll get into some more fun, specifically around NFC offenses. And you saw Justin Fields on the thumbnail, so you know it's going to be a wild one. So real quick before we hop in, Felix says the Spike Week order. If you haven't seen some of the merch, I've been leaking some of the stuff, right? It's fun. We get the designs and everything, and I get excited because I'm like, God damn it, I want that hat, or I want that shirt, right? So I just posted on Twitter. I mean,
there's not one that I don't like. And normally, even with stuff I'm involved in, there's usually one or two things I'm like, I get it for other people, but legitimately, no BS. Everything that you posted, I was like, oh, I need that. Oh, I need that. I need that.
I almost obviously there's where I'm working on getting everything set up so everybody can go buy stuff from the store. I'm doing the same typical thing that everybody else does, working through Shopify, whatever. I'm not a Shopify expert. So I'm figuring all that out amongst some other things. And so it's not up yet. It's not ready yet for people to buy. But even just the Spike Week hat that's like this, in black with the Spike Week logo, is smooth as hell. Yeah. And so I'm really, really excited for all the merch. The Spike Week order was a brilliant idea, and I'm very excited about that. I have some other wrestling themed ideas and at video game themed ideas, which obviously you see from like the Best Ball Bros stuff is a big part of my inspiration. I'm clearly not that creative. We got the wrestling thing and the video game thing, and like I can work off those ideas. Other than that, I'm not very creative. But the merch, for anybody that's interested, if you're watching this, you're probably a sicko best ball degenerate like we are. And we're going to put out as much like fun merch. Like my goal is not to make money off of that. My goal is to be like, if somebody wants a shirt with like I've never drafted a running back on it. That's fun. Like let's grow the community through the merch kind of thing is the general idea. And so Tony, we're working on it. The Spike Week order is the first hat I'm going to buy.
Mine too, but that 2014-2 shirt
so good.
Isn't so that good? That's so good. Speaking of like the wrestling stuff, and we're doing that for fun, obviously, and I think it's just fun to add the element of trash talk and stuff into this, and just instead of like, well, Justin Fields, he throws 5.3 yards downfield. It was just like constantly, so like just trash talking with each other for fun is good. Do you want a quick behind the scenes story of the video I shot with Overzet?
Yes, of course I do, because we probably exchange. This is going to make me sound like a dick. We probably exchanged numbers at some point over the course of the last, we talked on the phone and all that kind of stuff. I'm really bad with all of that. I didn't save your number. So I just get a text message that day that you guys are shooting that. And it was just like, hey, I forget exactly what you said, but it was like, obviously we don't communicate through text. We communicate through Discord or Twitter or whatever in DMs and stuff. And so it was like, hey, I haven't sent you a bunch of messages, but check out this video. And I'm like, who is this fucking person sending me? I'm like, I think I have Pete's number and I think I have Rob's number, but it's not a number showing up, and it's just a video of you getting hit with a fucking chair by Overzet. And I'm just like, what is going on? I mean, it was an absolutely incredible video, but it was a funny experience. So we need to hear the people need to hear the background story too.
So, obviously, I've mentioned that me and Overzet have the mutual friend Mike, but we've never met before. So I started
before this, past weekend.
We met the day that he hit me with a chair. That was the day we met. So we meet. So like it was this crazy weekend. I'm doing a convention. I'm at a convention all weekend. Pete's like, I can meet on Sunday at this time at this place, and I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you for shooting the video with me. I meet up with him and I'm like, here's my idea. We just met 5 seconds ago. I open the trunk of my car and I'm like, you're going to hit me with this steel chair. First 5 minutes, casual, just how you normally meet people. And he's like, okay. And I look at him and I'm like, I think we've talked enough that that if I do something, I'm all in on it, right? Like I just go balls to the wall with it. So I'm like, but you have to hit me. You can't, it has to look good. You have to swing. He's like, I don't know, man. Like, let's just practice. I'm like, no, Pete, you're not going to hurt me. I've, been into wrestling and, fooled around since I was 5 years old. I know how to protect myself from a chair shot. It's still going to hurt a bit, but I'll be fine. So we do 2 takes. He's swinging it fine. Third take is the take that you see on camera. He doesn't hurt me, but I forget that I'm in my, mid 30s and not 20 years old anymore. And I put my hands up too fast and I just feel everything rip on the left side of my body. And so he hits me with a chair. I go down. I'm dazed because I'm like, oh no, I just pulled a muscle. And I hear him cutting the thing and I know I have to stand up and get hit again. So like, it kind of looks like I'm smiling when I stand up, but I'm just like kind of out of it. Not like concussed or anything, but just like, And so he hits me and I'm just like laying on the ground before that. I'm like, please, Pete, nail this promo because A, I have to no sell that I'm hurt. Like I didn't let him know I was hurt at all. And B, if he messes this up, I'm doing this again until we get it right, but I really don't want to. So
That is so good. And for obviously, I have a little bit of the behind the scenes look into things, and it's so the little nuances are so funny. Like the raw video clip, right, that you
Yeah.
sent me was after it's over, you just get smoked with a chair. You're laying on the ground. Pete is not within camera view anymore, and
Yeah.
you're still laying on the ground, and he just goes, "Oh, I think that was the one." And you haven't gotten up yet, so like he doesn't even know that you're okay, but you were literally like lifeless on your back, just laying there like this, and he was like, "Oh, that's the one." You know? And I'm just like I watched it multiple times, obviously, and just the little subtleties to like doing a clip like that were so good. I was just absolutely dying.
I was debating on putting together like an outtakes thing for it. I don't know. I might do that, but yeah, it was good. And I never let him know I was hurt. Like even after we were done, I was like, he'll never do another video with us again if I show him that I like showed up and like, injured, and I could barely move my arm for 3 days afterwards, but worth it.
Yeah, totally worth it. It was so good. And I mean, shout out to the people. Like if you're watching and you saw it, maybe you shared it or whatever, people were sharing it like crazy. I really like that. That means a lot. Obviously you put a lot of hard work into it, and literally hard work. You were taking chair shots to the head. But it was cool to see people were like, "Oh, okay, this is cool. These guys are putting in something, putting in the work, but also doing something a little bit different." And so I'm very excited for the event. Obviously, we've been teasing it a little bit. We can't give away everything just yet, but I mean, you probably get a little bit of the gist. We're bringing in a lot of awesome best ball minds to a fun event, wrestling themed, with a belt and all of that. So I'm super pumped for it.
It'll be a lot of fun, and it combines the elements that I sort of thought best ball was missing a little bit last year, where your home leagues are fun, right? Because you're trash talking with your friends, and like that's part of the element of fun. And best ball is awesome, and I think it's the best format of fantasy. But where was the fun? Where's the trash talk? Where's that? Because that brings camaraderie, right? So if we're getting more people, you see the audience sees these guys trash talking with each other, all in fun, like no like real hard feelings, no sour grape stuff. But yeah, I think that's something that we can bring that's missing.
No, I mean, I've done multiple. It's not even June, and I've done multiple shows with Davis already, as an example. Mm-hmm. And no one likes to talk more. I mean, I was talking shit to Davis today, on Twitter, like that. But to your point, there hasn't been also, if you can see, my dogs are literally going to be playing in this whole episode is going to be them wrestling in the background. So hopefully everybody gets to enjoy. This is my life from about 3 p.m. Central Time to about 6 p.m. Central Time. They are going to wrestle. They just turned 6. It's actually their birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Griffey and Taz are their names. Now we're really coming out with but this is so Ken Griffey Jr., as you see here, who's on the chair. His name is Griffey. The other one is Taz, because he's a fucking shit show, Tasmanian devil style. But they have all infinite energy. But I love that angle. Like best ball really kind of has everything we want fantasy football to have, fantasy sports in general to have, in terms of like, it's all the best stuff and like none of the bad stuff, right? Like, I shout out to everybody that like enjoys doing waivers. That's not for me. I don't enjoy that. I don't really think many people enjoy that. But so we get the draft, we get all the fun, and we get millions of dollars worth of upside. But the one thing, to your point, that we don't get is like, you draft in a 12-man room, and then you're just drafting against hundreds of thousands of other people in that contest. You don't get the kind of fun shit talking camaraderie, right? Like the championship game with your home league high school buddies. Like that's fun. Maybe there's a punishment. We have a punishment in my longest running dynasty league. Like we're trying to expand upon that. All that stuff is right. The Waffle House thing. All that stuff is really fun. And that's what best ball is missing. So hopefully we can provide a little bit of that and grow that moving forward.
And just to put a bow on this Royal Rumble that we're doing, it's not something that's going to stop after the draft. We are going to continue building content around it. And I can't say what it is. It's not 100% yet, but I told you what it was. In October, we might have something like really fun to add to
I
it.
know. I think people will be excited because I think that there's just like unlimited upside. Like we're gonna do something and people are gonna see it, and I think it's gonna be fun. But then it's like real wrestling, honestly, where so you have the world champion, you know, we have this belt. This is the Royal Rumble is like the most fun format, so that's what we called it. But this would actually be kind of, you know, the actual world champion belt, you know, the world champion wrestler. But like, dude, like how many satellite leagues do you guys want to spin off? We'll run them. Well, you can stream them on this channel for all I care. Like, you know, like the upside is just making it a fun community event. Like you guys can play for the Intercontinental title and you guys can play. We can do the tag. What we should have kept Siegel and Gretsch out. They can play for the tag team title. Right? They don't get to, if they're going to tag team it, we can put them in the tag team draft or whatever. You know, everybody has a partner, but like just all that kind of fun, I think, is what we're trying to do. And I'm seriously really, really excited for it.
Yeah, me too. So today, Felix says, I believe in Rob's vision. Well, thank you very much. I sometimes probably have too big of a vision, but you know, that's the mindset you have to have.
Yeah. So what are we doing today?
So we are ranking the NFC offenses today. We did this in February, and we mentioned that we were going to do it again, like end of May, early June, and then we're going to do it one more time in August. And we're going to see after we're done doing this, you know, we'll go back at some point, either at the end of next week or the week after, and we'll look at what we had before and how much things have changed. And it's going to start with the very first team. And let me just, you know, share my screen here.
We can pull it up. I'm terrified to see. I don't remember our rankings and stuff from before, so I'm actually really fascinated to see how it turns out, comparing the two.
Well, what I can tell you is the team we're starting with is already going to be a massive change for what I had in the beginning. Okay. So we're just going to start with what you thumbnailed, I decided, and we'll start with the Chicago Bears. And I had them high. I was big on the Bears last year. I brought up how I was big on them this year, and it all caveated around them rebuilding that offense, bringing in one of these wide receivers. Not that we knew that all these wide receivers were going to be changing teams, but we knew, you know, some of the bigger names were moving. And what did the Chicago Bears do? They bring in Velus Jones from the 1934 Green Bay Acme Packers or something like that. So they have no other help. They didn't bring anyone in opposite Mooney that's going to do anything. Byron Pringle, what are we doing? Komet's fine. The backfield's okay. The offense as a whole, they needed that second weapon on the outside. They had to have it, and they didn't do it. And it doesn't look like they feel like a team uninterested in doing something, which is bananas because they have a rookie. I mean, not a rookie quarterback, but a quarterback on a rookie deal. And like, this is the time that you go for it. Like, if you're going to play around a rookie quarterback, you go for it. And they're like, nah, we're just going to chill. And just like, you know, so either they don't believe in Fields or they just believe that they couldn't compete this year.
This was one of the most frustrating parts for sure any best ball drafter, really. Like, even if you didn't believe necessarily in Justin Fields or believe in the franchise, there was very clearly, you know, Fields has already flashed the upside in a disastrous situation. I mean, Allen Robinson was just out there not giving a shit last year. Darnell Mooney was like the alpha wide receiver on this offense. And so, to your point, the idea of bringing in someone else who could be the 1A, 1B with Darnell Mooney, we have another, maybe theoretically, Cole Kmet takes a leap. Maybe even there's other additions that are made, right? We improve the offensive line. The upside was just so very clearly there. And they did absolutely nothing. None of them. Like, there was a checklist of like 5 things that they had to do. If they did like 3 of them, we would be sitting here and be like, give me stacks or give me death.
Right.
It's like they didn't even have to do all of it. They did 0. Like the offensive line isn't really much better. The weapons, like you said, it was Byron Pringle and Velus Jones.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do anything realistically to improve this offense. However, I think they're the most interesting conversation because look at these motherfuckers. They're the most interesting conversation because when we get into specifically Underdog and DraftKings tournaments,
mm-hmm.
the playoffs, and particularly, hey, zip it. Jesus. Week 17, right, is like the most important thing. They played the Detroit Lions in week 17. And it's like we have a low expectation for them for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
But if Justin Fields still has upside and Darnell Mooney still has upside, and maybe Velus Jones is a 18th round pick, right? Khalil Herbert, I kind of like Khalil Herbert as like a handcuff or whatever. That balancing act of, man, if you have Bears in week 17 against the Lions, you're probably going to feel good. But
which one?
Do they suck so bad? Yeah, but do they suck so bad the whole year that like there's no chance of you even getting them there to week 17?
And to that point, there's one more thing I want to bring up with them because this applies to a few different teams we'll be talking about over this. I'm going to bring up a bye week thing. And I know you love talking about bye weeks, but
it's my favorite subject.
It's a different aspect of it. And the aspect that I'm going to bring up is their bye week is week 14. Okay. So where are you on these teams that have the week 14 bye week? Because if you're deciding that, let's say that you're making Justin Fields your second quarterback, right? Say you went, I don't know, Jalen Hurts, and you were decided that you're going to double back with Justin Fields. Now week 14, you have to have Hurts produce. You don't have that little backup, quarterback just in case to that little safety net. I don't, the bye week thing about the whole, you can't have 3 running backs on the same bye week. It's like, whatever. I don't care about that. But when it's week 14, that's the playoffs. And I think it hurt some teams real bad last year when Jonathan Taylor was out on week 14 and they're trying to advance. Oh, and spoiler alert, Jonathan Taylor on week 14 bye again. So when we're on these teams that are already like questionable more so, and like players that were like sort of questioning, it's like, oh, the Bears, they get Detroit in week 17, but how am I going to get a Chicago Bears stack to week 17 when I can't even use their points in the first round of the playoffs?
Well, it's not the playoffs, right?
15, is it 14?
15, 16, 17.
Isn't 14? I thought there was 4 rounds.
3 rounds. 15 is week 1. So the regular season is 1 through 14. However, to your point, so it was last year where I would almost guarantee this is coming from. It was on what FFPC main event, I believe, was that week was included.
That's right. That's right.
And so it was a huge issue, as you said. Jonathan Taylor was people forget that too. That like, oh, look, Jonathan Taylor was a second-round running back that was the RB1. It's like everybody loved Jonathan Taylor. Like, there wasn't a tout on the planet that said anything negative about Jonathan Taylor. It was just that, Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson got hurt like close to the season. That tanked his AD. And on FFPC specifically, he was literally on a bye during the fucking playoffs. And so that like matters. How much? I have no idea, but it matters. And so I think it's a really interesting thought experiment, generally speaking, around the bye week stuff. My mind is not prepared for like full on bye week shit. Like listen, like when people like, I talked about it a little bit with Silas the last time we did a draft stream, and dude, listening to the people try to do the mental gymnastics on the bye week stuff is like really entertaining but also painful for me. So I'm currently just mostly trying to avoid it. What I will say, if you have a 17th round quarterback that you know is going to get 20 points a week, I would like to know who that is. So can you DM me? Because that's what everybody keeps saying is if I draft 2 quarterbacks on the same bye, I'm giving up 20 to 25 points. And I say, okay, that makes sense. Tell me what 17th round quarterback is going to get 20 points, because I'm still going to only draft 2 quarterbacks. I'm just going to draft that motherfucker. Right. I'm not going to draft, I don't want Dak Prescott if Kenny Pickett is going to give me 25 points every week.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and we've seen it because the quarterback value has risen so much this year as opposed to it was last year. I won't get into that whole discussion again, but the guys are way more valued than they were last year. So let's go ahead and rank the Bears. I'm on what are we doing here? I think you're a little higher than me, so I'll lean your way on it because I'm flabbergasted what they did in the offseason, and maybe I'm overly biased by that.
So my big thing, and I think I talked about this a lot over the course of this offseason, is how heavily I'm focusing on week 17. And there are X teams that got big boosts for me when the schedule came out, and the Bears were one of them. I was really not interested. Like Darnell Mooney, like why do I give a shit about Darnell Mooney? Justin Fields was whatever. Certainly not excited about David Montgomery, etc. Cole Kmet is like whatever, just total whatever tight end. Right. But you get the Detroit Lions in the last, and I like the Lions too. I like DeAndre Swift. I like TJ Hawkinson. I like Jameson Williams, etc. And so it just sets up for, I would probably put them in one-off most drafts because I'm not like going super crazy stacking them, although I do like, a Fields Mooney or a Fields Kmet stack or whatever, but it's more so the one-off spot.
Yeah. I can see that. I understand the thought process behind it. It's just who are the guys, and for me, it's like Mooney, I guess, Kmet, I guess, Herbert, I guess, and that's Bayless. Kind of it.
It's Bayless season, dude, baby.
No, I mean, come on, what are we doing?
The thing I'm most looking forward to of this entire NFL season is to rooting for Velus Jones. I mean, I don't really know anything about Velus Jones, nor do I give a shit about him. He's like older than me, I think. And I'm not like, passionate about this guy as a football player, but everyone in fantasy football has buried this dude. And we will put Sky Moore in the 7th fucking round.
We'll get to that next week.
And we will, because we like Sky Moore, and he lands in a spot we like. Then Velus Jones lands in a spot where his competition is Byron Pringle and Daz Newsome. And because we don't like him, we bury him. He doesn't even get drafted in every draft. And he has zero competition to any targets. And so I am drafting Velus Jones. So,
we'll see. Velus Jones and the Bears should be happy because this is the longest anyone's ever going to talk about him for the entire season. So we got them on one-off maybe every 5 drafts. So now we are on to the Green Bay Packers. Where are you with them?
I think we're hitting the heavy hitters in terms of
the tough ones. Yeah,
toughest ones for sure.
Yeah,
I am very different, I think, than the market on the Green Bay Packers. I'm largely out on the Packers, and so it would be probably one-off maybe every 5 drafts if I had to put them in a bucket, because I'm not completely avoiding them. Mainly the running backs, Jones and Dillon, just to mix in. They also make for good pairings. Again, you'll probably hear me say the week 17 thing a lot, but I like Justin Jefferson, obviously, who doesn't? And so having little mini correlations with him in week 17 is something I'm interested in. But in general, I don't think the market, like, maybe I'm just absolutely crazy. Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback of all time, and nothing matters. But if you take away maybe the best wide receiver in football, give or take, with Devontae Adams, and the guy who was getting like 35% of the team targets. And it's one thing to like do what the Chiefs did, where like they brought in Juju, they brought in MVS, they drafted a guy, they did a bunch of other stuff, and they already had Travis Kelce. The Packers replaced Devontae Adams with Christian Watson and Sammy Watkins. And Sammy Watkins might not make the team. And so it is a mess. And I'm kind of like out on them for fantasy. Like I said, a little bit of the running backs, but they're definitely not one-off most drafts. They are closer to what are we doing than they are to one-off most drafts. For me.
Yeah. So for me, I'm in that in-between range as well. I'm on board with Aaron Jones just because I think his workload is going to be as much as he can handle this year. And the other guy that I do like from Green Bay is Tanyan. Just where you can get him in the draft, where I think that Aaron Rodgers has always been that who do I trust guy. He's going to trust Tanyan. He had 10 touchdowns the last full season that he played, something similar, close to that. Yep. So the question with the offense is how often they get to the red zone so that he actually gets those opportunities. Right.
That's my part of the concern. It's not what role Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon both have. I feel confident in them and confident in them as football players. It's if Aaron Rodgers runs the play clock down to 1 every single snap,
right,
and he doesn't have Devontae Adams anymore, how many points are they going to score?
Yeah, let's get controversial. Let's put them in What Are We Doing? Because
let's fun. Go. I love it.
All right, so I will hit on the Vikings first.
You got to do the Vikings, yeah.
And I'm going to start with Justin Jefferson. And my Justin Jefferson point, whether we did the NFC or AFC, I was going to get to this week. So the question usually at the 4 or 5 turn in best ball right now is, are you taking Jefferson or are you taking Chase, right? In general, drafts break a little different here and there. I love Justin Jefferson. I think he's great. I think he's one of the top, obviously, receivers in the game. I want him on my team. However, just in a vacuum, I look at, and maybe this is recency bias from what he did last year in week 17. If I need either Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase to score me 40 points 1 week, it's Jamar Chase. I just think he has more upside on a per week basis, like on a single week basis, I should say. So right now I'm taking Chase over Jefferson. And then when I have the 5 spot, Jefferson's already gone. So I'm getting Chase. So I'm going to be underweight, I think, on Jefferson this year. I don't love it. It's not a thing that I enjoy, but just based off of like my feelings on that, it's like, I'm sort of taking a stand that I don't want to take. And maybe in the next month or two, I'll figure out a way to counteract that. But I love the Vikings. I mean, for the most part, I'm real big on KJ Osborne late in drafts, the 14th round or whatever. Thielen goes down. We saw what Osborne can do. He can absolutely light up a game. All we need him to do is have 1 or 2 of those games late in the season, and he goes nuts, and we blast off there. Thielen, I'm here or there on him, and I love Madison. So I'm kind of almost stacking, but not going out of my way. But I'm probably more one-off in most drafts. But I leave almost every draft with some sort of Minnesota Viking.
Yeah, me too. I like Irv Smith. Some people don't seem to like Irv very much, and I somewhat understand it. It's kind of like we've been trying the Irv Smith thing for many years, and it hasn't hit yet. But that doesn't mean that the ideology of him is wrong. His only competition for targets is, Justin Jefferson, obviously, but a very, very old Adam Thielen. And KJ Osborne is fine, but he's not. If KJ Osborne is your target competition, you're probably in pretty good shape relative to other NFL offenses. The only thing I would say about Jefferson is I pulled up the game logs between him and Chase. And so Chase had in half point PPR. So for underdog purposes specifically, Chase obviously had the 50 ball in the championship week, which is like, that's a thing. And we have to take that into account. but he scored 30 fantasy points one time outside of that game. Justin Jefferson also scored 30 fantasy points twice. So he didn't have the 50-point game, but he had a 33-point game and a 30-point game. And Chase had a 50-point game and a 30-point game. And Jefferson outscored him over the course of the entire season. I'm not saying that any of that really means anything, but I do think it's possible it's like a smidge of variance in terms of the true raw ceiling between the two guys. And I am actually taking Jefferson over Chase. And so we're like, I mean, they're literally...
It's razor thin, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, who am I to argue about my fourth overall pick versus my fifth overall pick? They're all... I want them both. I refuse to go into the start of the season like being underweight those two guys, basically, is my theory on them. I want both of them.
Yeah, and like I said, I need to find a way to make Justin Jefferson onto more of my lineups probably, but for now I'm underweight and it makes me a little nervous. So for me, I guess it's technically one off in most drafts because I'm not really going out of my way to get Cousins or multiple Vikings, but it's literally every draft I have a Viking just about. So
I think most is fine because Jefferson is a priority for me. Thielen is whatever. I'm actually taking Thielen a little bit, and then Madison is a priority for me. And then you mix in Irv Smith, you mix in KJ Osborne. That adds up to most drafts.
All right, let's get into another. This whole division is pretty interesting, to be honest with you. Let's get into the Detroit Lions, and you've already kind of teased your stance on them a little bit, but if you want to dive in a little more on them,
I talked about the Week 17 game, and so I won't really hit on that too much more. I guess I will. The Bears defense is also, in my opinion, not getting like we've projected the Bears as like a good defense for many years, and I don't think we should project them as a good defense this year. And so that's in my opinion, obviously we're many months out. Projecting that can be volatile, but it's something we should project as a positive for the Lions in Week 17 playing the Bears defense. No Khalil Mack anymore. They're just frankly not very good. We talk about that they didn't invest in the offense. They didn't have draft picks either, and they didn't really have that much salary cap. So like they just kind of didn't invest in anything.
Right. That was my point. What do they do?
They just suck. Actually, is like for real life. For real life, the Bears are going to be terrible. So like, if you're taking this as like, we're drafting the Bears, it's not because we think they're going to win games. Actually, quite the opposite. They're not going to win games, but they are hopefully going to be in a little bit more advantageous scoring environments. The Lions are like that on steroids. Last year, look, I'm a Jared Goff hater. I'm still a Jared Goff hater, but all this team did was produce fantasy results in every single game they played last year. Dan Campbell drinks, a gallon of coffee before the game on Sunday mornings, and he's not going to quit, right? He's not going to pull an Arthur Smith and just start running the ball down 14 in the third quarter. They're kicking on sides to start the second half, down by 14 or 17 or 21 or whatever. He doesn't play around, and I love that. And then I love the direction that they're going with their team. Obviously, other than quarterback, but they're building for the future. They're probably building for a first-round quarterback next year in the draft. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who obviously took a huge leap. DeAndre Swift is clearly a star in the backfield. TJ Hawkinson is, as our friend Evan Silva would say, the motherfucking Mackey Award winner at tight end. They paid DJ Chark a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. There's talent everywhere. You add in Jamison Williams. They trade up for a superstar, crazy athlete in Jamison Williams. And so they are a team I just want to have. I just want to have Lions on my team. I have no idea. You tell me amongst those like five guys or whatever who it's going to be, even say Jamal Williams or something like that as a backup running back. Right. I don't know who it's going to be, but I think that they did not improve their defense. They showed a willingness to remain competitive, and they have so much talent on offense that the only limiting factor, and an elite offensive line, I didn't even talk about the offensive line. It's like an awesome offensive line. It's just Jared Goff and kind of the stink of him and the Lions on any of these guys. I think we just want to smash all these guys. So the problem is I'm not taking Jared Goff, so I would put them in one-off most drafts. But if I were to like say where could they go, it's not down, it's only up on this list.
So for me, they're almost like the Vikings. They don't quite have that Jefferson player, obviously, but when I leave a draft, I have a Detroit Lion on my team most of the time. And it's because of what you said. There's 5 to 87 guys that you're like, okay, it could be one of these guys, and they're all relative cost effective on your draft.
Yep.
So you're getting them like, you're like, oh, Hawkinson in the 9th round for a tight end sometimes. Awesome. I'll take him. And then the thing about that is, as much as I can't stand Jared Goff either, I think he's terrible, but you're getting him in this 15th, 16th round. So you're tripping into a stack. You're not even like, you're never going in like, I am going to stack the Detroit Lions this time. It's oh, I got Hawkinson in the 9th. I just got, I don't know, Chark in the 13th or something in that wheelhouse. And then you're like, oh, well, now I can get Jared Goff. And now I just complete that stack without trying to. Like, and so for me, it's kind of the epitome of stack, but don't go out of my way, because I'm just falling into these stacks. But if it's not that, it's one-off in most drafts. It's not worse than that right now.
Yeah, it can't go below one-off in most drafts. So I'm totally fine with stack, but don't go out of my way. I'm not really taking Jared Goff, but I understand why people would, and I take dusty, low upside quarterback sometimes too. So
it's never a plan, and it's usually a 3rd quarterback, right? So if you're doing a 3 quarterback build, I think he's like the perfect 3rd quarterback. So let's get into Tampa, who we were really low on last time. I think we were even down in the what are we doing category, because the whole team was in shambles. And we even said at that point, like, things could turn around with them, and things turned around in a big way. They got Brady coming back. They got Evans. They got Godwin. They're bringing pretty much the whole band back together. You got Russell Gage, who isn't quite Antonio Brown, but he's not going to, strip in the middle of a game and run off the field. And Gronk is probably coming back. So you get this whole, and Fournette. We didn't even mention Fournette. And they think they upgraded the backup running back.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're gone down from that to, I'm just going to say they're at stack, but don't go out of my way on them, because you're getting Brady at a cost-effective price in terms of quarterbacks right now. So he's not our typical archetype guy that we like to get, but with the quarterbacks going so high now, I don't hate it if I fall into them and it makes sense. So I don't mind having 2, even if I don't have Brady, I don't mind having 2 Buccaneers on my team, especially in that division.
No, 100%. I'm more one-off most drafts because I don't really take Brady at cost, but I'm not gonna like shame anybody that is taking Brady. I like Evans. I even like Lenny. I like Godwin. I like Gronk. I like Gage. Rashad White is one of my highest owned running backs. To your point, if something were to that's my style of guy, right? The handcuff to the running back on the awesome offense. And so, I mean, I would bet if you went through my rosters, most drafts have the Bucs, but I don't stack them as much. So I would put, that's where I would put it.
Yeah, we'll put them at one-off most drafts. I'm fine with that, but the stacks are fine with me on them as well. So where are you on this fun team, the New Orleans Saints?
It's funny, they came up in the Discord fairly recently, and I think it's maybe been multiple years now that I've been a little bit different than the market. And I think if Jameis Winston wasn't the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, I feel like the market would be a lot more in line with how I view them. But there's this guy who was this crazy gunslinger, right? Everybody knows how Jameis plays. He's wild and crazy and makes some just truly idiotic throws and idiotic mistakes, gets benched. But he did that on these old school Bucks teams that like had terrible defenses and threw the ball 50 times a game. Then he goes to New Orleans, and I feel like the market brings this sentiment about Jameis to New Orleans when the Saints, even though Sean Payton is gone, it's still largely the same coaching staff, and it's definitely the same front office and everything in place. And what I think they want to do is continue, just keep trudging along, run the ball, play defense. The last thing they want is for Jameis to like make a bunch of mistakes and lose them games that they can win, because they have a really good defense and they do have a good offensive line still, even though it's getting a little bit worse. But like, they're like a one-off, maybe every 5 drafts. I'm not totally ignoring them. They also have a weird situation with Kamara, and like I haven't taken Kamara yet with the suspension thing and the issues that are going on with him. I don't really love Michael Thomas. I get the case for Michael Thomas, but I don't really love him with who knows what's going on with him. So it turns into like Olave, maybe a little bit of the ancillary wide receivers if you want to mix in Troutman or something. So maybe every 5 drafts, but it's closer to what are we doing than one-off most drafts.
I'm what are we doing here with this team? Because everything you just said, I was already out on them last year when they had Sean Payton and everything. I made it a point to avoid the Saints, and it's not a knock on Kamara. It's just for every reason you just said, the way that coaching staff was going to want to play. And we have to take that into account sometimes. I know we like players and stuff, but we got to remember who they're playing for sometimes. And we'll get to that with Dallas later. But we have to remember who these guys are playing for. And you nailed it perfectly what the Saints want to do. So Winston doesn't do anything for me. I don't care if he can be a gunslinger. They won't let him. I don't care that he's hobbling on the field too much right now. It's June tomorrow. But I mean, like whatever. So like none of that matters. And the only thing I'm a little pissed off about with the Saints is for 2 weeks I had a take ready to go on them that's gotten stolen over the last week, which was the only guy in the Saints I was going to take specifically on Underdog was Taysom Hill, because I could get him in the 17th or 18th round and just kind of sneak him in there as the tight end. That's probably not going to just play tight end. And now all of a sudden he's getting steamed up by other people, and I'm seeing him going like the 15th, 16th round.
Davis Maddock hasn't posted a team on Twitter that hasn't had Taysom Hill on it.
Oh my God, it's driving me crazy. I had it ready to go. I'm like, no one's talking about it. It's a little, stashed away thing. I'm grabbing them here and there in the 18th round, and then all of a sudden, like, you guys know that Taysom Hill's going to be playing tight end, and he's eligible as a tight end on Underdog. What are we doing here, guys? And just boom, automatically 2-3 rounds. So what are we doing here with them? You can't.
I'm cool with that.
I just don't know who you can talk me into on that team right now. So
because the value and the value is like Jarvis Landry, and it's like someone paint me a picture how Jarvis Landry is winning me best ball.
Yeah, and that's
because I can't find it.
And I think he's a great's not the right word, but I think he's a really good NFL wide receiver. Yep. He's a guy you want on your team, but not on your best ball team. Yep. He has to be for a very specific build where like you need just real consistent play from a wide receiver just to help you get through the season.
Please, and God, give me 10 points. Yeah, give me 10 or 12 points. Yeah.
Right. So Atlanta, I'm not quite as down on them as I am on the Saints, but it isn't far away. They have some better weapons on this team. Obviously, Pitts is a guy that we're looking at. Drake London, correct, is the other guy that we would be looking at. But other than that, Algier, I mean, I guess I'm not taking Cordero Patterson where he's getting drafted. That felt if there was ever this is a 1-season rocket ship, it was that. Right? Like there's no way he repeats what he did last year.
I think the only thing with him is it's in the range of outcomes that we saw how good he can be used in this kind of crazy hybrid role. And if they do maybe actually rein back his, carries at the 50-yard line in between the tackles. Like I don't want, like, I'm not drafting him in the 8th round or whatever to get 3 yards at the 46-yard line. Like, no one gives a shit about that. You want him to catch passes and maybe get the ball at the goal line. And so I don't have a lot of him. We talked about him again also in Discord today. And I don't really have that crazy strong of an opinion on him, but he probably has the widest range of outcomes, one of the widest outside of rookies, obviously. But like, I can't think of anyone that has a wider range of, like, he could come in and get 10 carries a game and like 6 targets, and I wouldn't be surprised. And he could come in and get 0 carries and play like 18 snaps, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I have no idea. I don't have any idea. But just to polish it up, there's somewhere between one off most drafts and one off maybe every 5 drafts. I am obviously in on Kyle Pitts. I am in on Drake London. I actually posted a team to Twitter today that I took Bryan Edwards in the last round, but it has mostly to do with they're all free besides Pitts, all of them. The whole offense is free, and they play Arizona in week 17. So it's not anything profound. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the other two. I'm like one off maybe every 5 drafts, and then what are we doing? So I think just for what makes sense.
Pitts probably gets you there. Pitts and London probably, and Algier, just them. Even if you don't want CPAT or like Damian, I took Damian Williams like once or twice. Even if you don't want those guys, you probably get to every 5 drafts just through Pitts and London themselves.
Exactly, because I do have Pitts, I do have London, I do have Algier. I don't know if I took any other Falcons at this point, and I don't know if I will, to be honest.
Yeah. Yep.
So we are on to the Carolina Panthers, and this is your turn to go first.
Oh, man. I think they are in one-off most drafts, and they're such a fun thought experiment because no one is projecting, nor am I, their offense to be awesome. Certainly not, right? We are expecting Sam Darnold to be back, and it's 3rd round Matt Corral if Darnold can't take the job. They have 2 total clown shoes for head coaches. So like, a head coach and an offensive coordinator. So we're not excited about any of that. However, that has basically been the case in Carolina for years.
True.
Bad quarterback play, bad coaching. They fired Joe Brady. Joe Brady was like the only thing they had going for him, and they fired him. And all Christian McCaffrey does is be Christian McCaffrey. Like, we can hate on the injuries. I'm not, if you have differing opinions on him as, a top 3 pick because of aging running backs and all that, trust me, I can appreciate that. But he has the most upside of any player in the player pool, like raw, fantasy point upside just through his usage.
Right.
And that he was the RB1 with Kyle Allen at quarterback. Why is this different? Someone explain to me why the only thing that's different is health for him. And DJ Moore is the same way. All DJ Moore does is smash. Honestly, Robbie Anderson had maybe the worst season you could possibly have given his usage last year. But if you look at his usage, he's way undervalued. And then you get Deonta Foreman, who's basically just a handcuff to CMC, who I really like too. So that it's probably it's again, same thing, every 5 or most. And I think that they're pretty undervalued, obviously, other than CMC.
Imagine being Robbie Anderson and having the balls to say who you do and do not want to be your quarterback after the season you had last year. Right. No, we don't want Baker Mayfield. Like, I mean, I understand, but like, who the hell are you after you like crawled down the field the entire year and did nothing? Like, any quarterback would have been an upgrade over what you were after the initial run with Darnold when he got hurt and they were rolling out Cam Newton's corpse and the guy that played
PJ Walker.
Yeah, PJ Walker, who, come on,
XFL.
Yeah.
When you're starting an XFL quarterback, it's bad. Like, that's a tough scene.
Yeah, so it's you said that they're a fun thought experiment. They scare me to death because yes, the health stuff with CMC, the coaching staff change. Is there going to be a major philosophy change on him? I don't think you can, but we've seen these coaches overthink shit on multiple occasions. So that's kind of like the stuff that I'm worried about. I'm still taking CMC. I'm still taking DJ Moore. It's just who else are we taking from Carolina at this point? I know some people are taking Donta Foreman late, just to,
I love Foreman.
Yeah, and I don't hate it. So like that's fine, but I don't know. They're
five every 5.
Yeah, and it's nothing malicious against CMC or DJ Moore. It's just like if it's not every 5 drafts you're getting one of those two, then you're probably going too far out of your way to get DJ Moore. You know what I mean? So because CMC is kind of locked into where you're going to get them. It's going to be the 2 or the 3 spot, and DJ Moore is kind of the one that you have to look at there. So
yeah, it would only be Robbie and Foreman that could get you up 1 tier, I think.
Right, and
how heavily your target, like, because you just can't get above every 5 with CMC and DJ Moore. But if you like love Robbie and Foreman, you might get to most. So splitting hairs.
Right. So I get to pull the Eagles first.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say this is.
I don't want the Eagles. I'm happy you have the Eagles.
This is my first give me stacks or give me def team.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we get AJ Brown on the team. I've said this before. I think they tried to show you a little bit of what they wanted to do with this offense last year, and they just couldn't quite do it yet. So if you're gonna go out, you have Devonta Smith, you have Goddard already, and you're going to go out and you're going to trade capital to get AJ Brown, that's telling me that this is not a team that wants to be the number 1 rushing offense in the league and that they want to start throwing the ball a lot more, right? So I'm not going to say they're going to be the number 1 passing team, but when I can get AJ Brown in the 3rd or Devonta Smith in the 7th, Jalen Hurts in the 8th, 9th, Goddard in the 9th, they're one of the easiest teams to stack, and I think they can be a top 5 offense in the league this year. And I think that's what they want to do is run through the passing game. And I know you love Miles Sanders, and I don't hate that play either. So, like, I don't mind stacking Sanders as well. And, oh, by the way, I love Kenneth Gainwell. If I'm not grabbing Sanders, I'm grabbing Gainwell in some of these drafts. So I almost don't even try to do it, and I'm stacking the Eagles in 1 out of every 3 drafts probably at this moment.
They're definitely in the upper tier for me. The only thing that doesn't put me specifically in giving stacks, give me that. However, I am totally fine with us putting them there. Is we talked about the Saints and how the Saints want to play, and that's who they play in Week 17, which was a really huge bummer. Like,
yeah, that's valid.
I know we can't predict that. Kind of said it before. It's Week 17, and it's the beginning of June, about to be the beginning of June. So who knows what the Saints defense will look like. Injuries happen and such, but it's typically not something we're really excited about. And particularly not with someone like Jalen Hurts. Like, even if he takes a leap as a passer, he's not going to be Patrick Mahomes this year. So that like I was ready to literally be all in. Dallas Goedert was my favorite tight end. Miles Sanders was my favorite, like, at cost.
Yeah.
Like all the Eagles were my guys. And so it's a little bit of a bummer, but I'm totally fine putting them in the top tier. I don't have anything negative really to say about them.
Well, my little caveat with them is I'm mostly skinny stacking them, and I've explained this before. So, like, when I say give me stacks or give me death, it's like I'm grabbing AJ Brown and then I'm grabbing Hurts and I'm done with them for the most part. I'm barely ever double stacking him because the way I look at it, to your point, if it's Week 17, they're playing the Saints. The way Jalen Hurts wins it for me is he's probably going to throw 2 touchdowns, run for 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
And the 2 are going to, and I'm looking for the 2 to go to AJ Brown, or I'm looking for the 2 to go to Devonta Smith. And I just think the fact that he's going down to the 7th round, it's not like Devonta Smith is not going to be forgotten about on this offense. We saw him start to emerge last year. So
no, I like all the running backs too. You can even, if you want to get crazy, Jacob Sanderson was in the Discord talking about Boston Scott is a fine 18th round pick.
Right.
They have a lot of great options. So I love all the Eagles. Basically, really quick, I just want to I missed Lundar's question.
Sure.
And I was kind of curious. For me, this is like, if you had to make me bet on this, I'm betting Desmond Ridder as the starting quarterback for the Falcons in Week 17. I'm actually sure if I were setting the line, I don't know. I'm not an odds maker, but they're going to suck. Like, they're going to really suck, like, as a real-life football team. So, like, what incentive do they have to play Marcus Mariota late in the year? I feel really confident that it's Ritter late. But, I mean, that doesn't mean I want Ritter, but it just mainly means I don't want Mariota.
Right. And so just to put a bow on that is, if you think Mariota is going to be the starter in week 17, you need to go place a future bet that the Atlanta Falcons are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, what's their win total? Their win total is like 4.5 or something like that. If he's starting in week 17, you don't even need to draft him. Just go take out a second mortgage and bet over 4.5 because you're going to win a shitload of money. Because if he's still starting, then they're like in playoff contention.
Okay. David, I'm not going to try to say your last name, something. Says stacking AJ Brown and Hurts is tough unless you're willing to reach. Been trying like mad and hasn't happened yet. I disagree completely on this. It depends what you're considering reaching, because Brown's falling to the third sometimes. And if I can get Brown at the late second, I don't consider it a reach because I think that's where I have him valued. Mm-hmm. So it matters on where you have somebody valued, right? If you're saying reaching, I mean, we've talked about the quarterback value already being above the market was above what the market was last year. So Hurts is where he's supposed to be based on the way the quarterback market has changed this year.
Right.
So I don't think you're reaching on Hurts either. So I have a ton of AJ Brown and Hurts because I'm drafting them almost at cost or a little above cost. And I don't consider that, but I don't consider that a reach. So I guess it's your mentality towards the players more so than anything.
Yeah.
So
Cowboys is me.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that you had some interesting takes on the Cowboys, so I'm curious to hear. I'm legit concerned about the Cowboys this year. You have an offense that we've been excited for. Clearly, last year they were one of like the memes. Cardinals and Cowboys played. I think anyone that even like remotely played best ball last year probably knew that Cowboys and Cardinals played in Week 17. As a matter of fact, shout out Peter Overzet and I's team that made Best Ball Mania. Like our team was like it was a Dak CD Gallup stack with James Conner and Rondale Moore. It's like we stacked that game purposefully. They did nothing to improve their offense. All they actively did was make their offense worse. And what we saw last year was their defense was so much like we thought that their defense would be bad, and it was so much better. I mean, Micah Parsons just like almost himself made their entire defense just so much better. And I think that they're going to like kind of continue to ride that. Not that they're not going to try to score, of course, but like, I think they're going to be more of this, like maybe what someone would perceive like the Vikings to be, just like a good offense, but like no one says the Vikings offense stinks, of course, but no one is like, oh yeah, that's their world beaters. I think that's kind of more of where the Cowboys are. Like, I still believe in CD. I'm not going to have zero CD. I like Dalton Schultz fine. Pollard, I think, is still a really good target. But I just think in general, they're kind of like not a very attractive team to target in drafts. And I have to do my Week 17 thing, and they play the Titans. Can you think of a more boring game than Ezekiel Elliott and Derrick Henry running into the back of their offensive lineman for 2 hours? Like, I don't know. That doesn't sound very fun to me. So it's like every 5 drafts, because I'm not going to avoid obviously Pollard, CD, Schultz, whatever, but they're pretty fucking boring. And last year, if we would have done this, they would probably be in the top row.
Right. Well, I'm scared about CD because his draft position, top of the second round right now, just feels crazy high. So I don't have a ton of him. I have taken him here and there, but it's like there's just so many guys around him that I'd rather have. So I
don't want zero, but do you agree? You don't want zero. Like there's a range of outcomes where their offense is really good and he gets like 180 targets or something like that, and like we would feel foolish, but it is rich. It does feel rich.
I just don't understand how he's staying there. There's just guys behind him that I'm like, how are people just not smashing him? Like, he's one of the weirder guys to me in the drafts right now.
Why does he even go above Debo? Like, why does he go above Debo? I get regression and all that, maybe uncertainty with the contract stuff, but like Debo just averaged almost 20 yards a catch and proved to be just like a flat out superstar football player. Trey Lance, all Trey Lance does is unlock a ceiling that, you know, is maybe they're less of a floor. I don't know. Jimmy Garoppolo is fucking terrible. The floor can't be that much lower.
Right.
Like, what's the difference? And like, I know we have the concerns about will Debo keep it up, but like, I don't know why does a guy that just had 1,400 receiving yards and 1 million touchdowns on an awesome offense, why are we worried about him versus CeeDee Lamb, who what has CeeDee shown us to like, at least we would usually see like Mark Andrews last year. We would see like, okay, he just needs some more volume. And you're like, we're going to see what we saw last year. CeeDee's like not even getting on the field. Like, he's not even playing all the snaps. He's like a slot receiver. And so I don't know. I like CeeDee Lamb. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to take 0 of him, but it's weird. He's a weird bet to me.
Yeah, and as soon as you take him, it's like when you look at your team, you're like, I feel like I missed a pick somewhere almost.
Yep.
Like, so yeah, so there's the whole CD thing. There's the Gallup injury thing. There's Schultz. I do like at his position, at his cost. Like that's great. So KZ brings him up. I do like Schultz as well. And then my thing, I think I've probably brought this up before, but talking about teams and who they're playing for, the Cowboys have the most unique position in the NFL. Their owner is their coach. Whether we like it or not, Jerry Jones is their coach. And we've seen it play out time and time again. So we all love Pollard. I love Pollard more than I love Zeke, right? Jerry Jones does not love Pollard more than he loves Zeke.
No.
Zeke is going to get the opportunity. He couldn't walk in a game last year, and they were carting him out there to run the football. Like, it blew my mind watching it. It's like, because they knew that if Pollard had 2 games to himself, you couldn't go back to Zeke. And for whatever reason, this team refuses, if it's money or whatever, or ego. It could be ego that I just, he wants to be right about something. And, that's like, this is like hand in the dirt, look behind the scenes type shit that I'm coming up with. But they are a different team than any other team as long as Jerry Jones is alive. And you have to kind of look at it in that aspect sometimes. So when Zeke was a mid-5th round pick, I hated doing it, but I was taking him. He's creeped up to the beginning of the 4th round, and I'm not doing it as much anymore. Yeah. But I know they're going to try to run him. As long as he's able to get on that field, they're going to run him. So it kills. I want Pollard to be a thing, right? We all want Pollard to be a thing. But I don't know. They're a frustrating team, basically. So
extremely. I think we just spent 5 or 10 minutes talking about how stupid this fucking team is and how frustrating they are. Like, we all see what it could be. And I like Jalen Tolbert. I don't want to end this conversation without, like, I like Jalen Tolbert. I'm obviously drafting Tony Pollard. So they're in the every 5 drafts, but I think it's a frustrating situation. It's really hard to project them to be like this awesome fantasy offense.
Let me ask you this question, and we'll wrap up with the Cowboys. Have you been in a draft yet and you're like, oh, I can't wait to stack Dak in this team? Have you said that to yourself?
I don't know if I've taken Dak.
And that's the point. I don't know if I've taken Dak either.
Not at this cost. Why should I take Dak over Jalen Hurts?
Right.
At the same ADP. Why should I take Dak over Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
On the Broncos. Like, why would I do that? And I obviously like Trey Lance. We'll get to that. But like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Even like Stafford, Dak doesn't run anymore. Why would I take him over? He's a pocket passer on an offense I'm not as excited for as even like the Rams or the Bucks, whatever. So like, I'm not very pro Brady and Stafford, but what's the difference between Dak throwing to Jalen Tolbert and James Washington and Matthew Stafford throwing to Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson, or Tom Brady throwing to Mike? Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention with Tampa, Mike Evans is like one of my favorite 2nd round picks right now. But let's move on to, I have one Dak share when he fell like 20 picks. Yeah. I mean, that's like the only way I'd be able to get him.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Do I have to do the Giants, or are you going to do the Giants?
I'm supposed to do the Giants, but since
I want to hear, I want to hear your Giants take, actually. You go first.
I mean, I'm still down on him. I like Saquon. I like Saquon in the third. But here's an epiphany I had with Saquon today. A lot of the times that I'm taking Saquon, I'm building one of my hyper fragile teams, right? Where
you and everybody else.
This is my point. He is. So now I was thinking about it today. I'm like, every single hyper fragile team has
Saquon Barkley. Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't do it anymore. So now I can't build that team anymore. So you either have, it's like, I wish I wrote down what it was. I had it all in my head today, but it's like the same 3 guys. It's the same rotation of 5 to 6 guys for these hyper fragile teams.
Yep.
And I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I can't build these hyper fragile teams because everyone has them. So it's a dumb build right now when you're doing it with Saquon. Like the build itself isn't dumb, but if you're doing it this way, it's dumb. Because if I'm not the one doing it, I'm watching someone else do it in the draft. Right?
Oh, look at this. I got Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
And then I got Nick Chubb. And then I got Saquon Barkley.
Absolutely. Those are the 3 perfect ones to bring up.
Like, congratulations. You have the same team that every other hyper fragile. It was funny. A shout out. This is not slight. Shout out to Hayden Winks from Underdog. Posted some really good stuff. They had a show today that was talking about how some of the zero RB stuff. Zero RB is very unique from a raw percentage perspective. Like 3% of teams are zero running back or whatever. But you have so few combinations last year in particular. You had so few combinations because it was like we were drafting Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. That was it. Like you only had a couple combinations of early round wide receivers to choose from. And so it ended up not being quite as unique from a combination perspective. But what we're seeing now this year is like, dude, we got infinite at Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews. You mentioned Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, whatever. We got a ton of wide receiver, non-running back options early.
Yeah.
But if you want to do hyper fragile, there's basically like 2 versions of it. Yeah. And the main one is like I got Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey, and then I get my Nick Chubb and my Saquon at the turn. And Saquon is like always include is like always. If I'm gonna draft Saquon, I want him to be like my anchor. Like I took I took Kupp and T. Higgins, and then give me Saquon as opposed to him in the hyper fragile because everyone is falling back on that. It's so true. It is like the least unique thing you could possibly do. In drafts right now.
A little sidebar, real quick one. Hayden also posted a thing about the teams that were in the best ball finals last year, like a week ago or so. And it was like 86% of the teams in it drafted a running back in round 6 or before. And only like 14% were round 7 or after. And I found it kind of interesting that you and Pete's team was one of them and my team was one of them. So that was
We're not biased. We're not biased at all.
Yeah. I was just looking at it. I'm like, I wonder if we should bring that up. But yeah, so that was kind of fun. But just to get back to the Giants, I mean, I like Saquon, and I guess I'm taking Kenny Golladay around where he is because I think he has upside. So they're not a what are we doing, but they're a one-off every 5 drafts for me right now because I'm not taking Kadarius Toney. I understand his upside. I don't know. Something feels off with that situation. If they're like shopping him to trade him at the beginning of the year, what is going on there? Maybe I'm looking into it too much, but he's only in his 2nd year. You don't hear that happen with a guy, so, so I know you're probably, give me stacks or give me death on the Giants or something.
I would easily classify them as stack, but don't go out of my way. I think they're the clearest. They've actually probably the clearest of any team I've had to try to classify that we've gone through that they fit that bucket just so easily. At worst, they're one-off most drafts. They just have guys in every range that fit. They have a week 17 game against the Colts. Like if you get Jonathan Taylor, it's like through the rest of the draft, you have options for the Giants, like all the way to like round 18. You didn't get Saquon. Matt Breida? You want to back up? You want to handcuff Matt Breida? You want Darius Slayton? Wan'Dale Robinson is one of my guys. I'm very big on him. Yep. If you're not, that's totally fine. But just like all these rookies, we talked about like Sky Moore, right? Sky Moore goes in the 7th round and Wan'Dale Robinson goes in the 17th round. Like that's crazy, you know? So there's just a guy always for the Giants, and Daniel Jones is such an easy fallback option. Like I probably have way more Daniel Jones, Wan'Dale Robinson sacks than I care to admit. They even have freaking tight ends that go undrafted. Ricky Seals-Jones. If you prefer Ricky Seals-Jones, I prefer Daniel Bellinger, but it doesn't really matter. They just have guys throughout the whole draft. And I'm sort of bearing the lead in that obviously you get Brian Daboll in there. They made offensive line upgrades. They made weaponry upgrades. It's the Giants. It's probably going to spectacularly fail. It's going to be a stone disaster. But there's reason to believe with a running quarterback and this coach who turned Josh Allen around that we should target it. So I think we should meet in the middle to one off most drafts on the Giants.
I was going to give you the stack, but don't get out of my way because you're so passionate about the Giants.
No, you can put him in the middle.
We can put him in the middle. All right. So this leaves you with the Commanders, which unfortunately old logo for me here, but I was using the template that they had.
Yeah, it's fine. This will be quick. Oh, so I guess actually I will say I would have been. What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
But I think Jahan Dotson puts them into a one-off every 5 drafts, almost by himself. I'm still gonna take some McLaurin. I don't think I've taken Antonio Gibson yet. Fucking RIP. Pour one out for that. Jesus. We're not even a year removed from me just talking on every podcast about Antonio Gibson. And now he's like going 80th overall and I still don't take him. So that really sucks. But I think Terry McLaurin is still a very reasonable target in the 4th, 5th round. And Jahan Dotson is the guy who went as a first-round wide receiver that the market just decided, nope, we like Sky Moore, we like these other guys, and he really didn't go any later. He obviously went way before Sky Moore did, but he goes in the David Bell range, and I like David Bell too, but Jahan Dotson got like premium draft capital and has no target competition other than Terry McLaurin, basically. And so I'm sort of making him a priority. We are also already getting crazy camp hype in like the first 2 days about Jahan Dotson. And so they're every 5 drafts for me between basically McLaurin, Dotson, maybe if Gibson starts getting into the hundreds or something. Brian Robinson, I think, is a totally reasonable target. And if you need a late quarterback, I think Wentz is fine. I think Wentz is fine. So
that's where I was going to go with this. Like, for me, Washington is my quote fingers here, everyone, quote favorite, my favorite oh shit stack, where I'm like, towards the end of a draft, I'm like, oh shit, I got to figure out a stack here. Yeah, I didn't make it, Casey. All right. Not even going to read your comment.
That was good.
And by the way, I listened to Overzet's stream today. You're the guy that's sending people random $50 Venmo requests. So I don't want to.
Easy is?
Yeah, he sent Overzet a $50 Venmo request over the weekend for no
what?
reason. No one knows.
I'm gonna try. I should try that.
So just getting
I'll put the description to Pete like a BBM.
Yeah.
This is, you owe me for a BBM. He's like, we haven't done a stream yet together. I'm like, it's fine. Just accept the request.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Just, it's coming. But yeah, like when I'm in a draft and I'm like, and this has only happened a few times, and I only have one quarterback, maybe one tight end or whatever. I'm like, oh shit, I need to find a stack. And I see Wentz. I'm like, I guess I'm going to do Logan Thomas / Carson Wentz for the backdoor stack. And, yeah, so like I'm one off every 5 drafts for them for every other reason that you said, and I don't think we need to go further than that.
I think that they're easy for that in that bucket.
Exactly. Okay. And I do like Dotson as well. Seattle. I have to talk about the Seattle Seahawks. I
This is
guess.
easy.
I guess there. What are we doing? The only caveat with that, and I hate saying it because I'm not a big fan of them to begin with, is you're getting Tyler Lockett real late now.
Yeah.
And it's like the biggest trap I've ever seen in my life, too.
It's a huge trap.
Right?
Only you and Leone are going to fall for this trap.
I've only fallen for it once or twice so far. And as I do it, I'm like, trap, and press the button to draft them. I'm like, what a mistake. I won't be doing it in BBM anymore. I might do it in the puppy here and there. But
I'm literally sharing this because I'm hoping to ratio Leone. So if you're watching this, just go look. But Leone said, I don't know how much Tyler Lockett I'd want to draft, but it's hard to fathom the market gap between Metcalf's ADP, which, I mean, he's not necessarily wrong, right?
Right.
Metcalf goes as wide receiver 19, Lockett goes as wide receiver 42. And I said, interesting to see you land on the side of the receiver who will turn 30 at the start of the season, not, the mutant 23-year-old or whatever, DK Metcalf. So anyway, back to the actual point of this, but that's my basic general stance on the two.
Yeah. So they're what are we doing here? There's players we want to be good on that team. We want DK Metcalf to be good. We want Noah Fant to be good. But to go back to the coaching staff thing, we know what the Seattle Seahawks are going to do. And that's be terrible, because that's what they do under Pete Carroll now, is be terrible. And so they're honestly, what are we doing? And I don't know how else to say anything else.
Nope.
Oh, thank God you got San Francisco.
Yes. It lined up perfectly. You thought I was going to give you these. Look at these motherfuckers. Just wrestle.
Let me just show you what I have going on.
When it's straight. Yeah, this is the opposite. Hey.
Yeah.
Look at them. Do you see this?
They're like, oh, now we're being watched.
So I will obviously put the board back on the screen here. The 49ers are the clearest give me sacks or give me death team on this entire board.
Coakley and Beimfohr. Oh my God.
If you don't have them in give me stacks or give me death, you should quit playing best ball. That's the problem.
This isn't true.
The dogs are telling you as well.
No, the dogs are telling you you're wrong.
This is all planned, that they were going to lose their shit.
Yeah.
Hold on. Hey.
This is the one time they know their father's wrong.
Yeah. For 2 seconds, can you stop?
They're trying to savor their father in the background.
But you have the elite weaponry, and other than Debo, you're getting discounts on everyone. You're getting discounts on everyone on the entire offense. And a quarterback who, I don't give a shit if he stinks, but he elevates the ceiling of the entire offense, because guess what? He can actually throw the ball outside the numbers, and he can throw the ball further than 25 yards down the field. I could throw the ball as far as Jimmy G has for the last multiple years. Trey Lance can throw the ball. There was the old Mike Vick commercial where he threw it and it went like 2 miles or whatever. Nike commercial. That's literally like Trey Lance's arm. And he unlocks an upside of this offense that doesn't exist. And okay, hey, shh. We're trying to talk about Trey Lance. Hush.
Yeah, that's why they're upset.
Yeah, they are. They said, you mentioned that Jimmy Garoppolo guy's name. And I know that's when we're supposed to act like shitheads. Anyway, Ayuk really turned it on down the stretch. I do actually want to be serious for 2 seconds. If you actually, honestly, if you don't want to draft Trey Lance at his cost, that's fine. I think his upside is so crazy at this cost that you should. But if you don't want to draft him or even Debo, Kittle's going in the 5th round now.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
I have so much Kittle.
And Brandon Ayuk turned it on down this once he got out of the doghouse. He was actually a top 15 wide receiver for the last 2 months of the season. And so between that And I really like Tyrion Davis Price as like a kind of handcuff. Yeah, but I think he's more than a handcuff. I think he's going to get on the field right away to start. Mm-hmm. And so I just think there's a lot of appealing things about this offense. Obviously, I am giving stacks or give me death, but I think we should be targeting them, period, even if you don't like Trey Lance.
I'm going to be serious about the 49ers this one time, and I'm not doing...
Hold on. This is the real... I didn't even mention my guy, Danny Gray. 18th round. Danny Gray is going to be the third wide receiver for the 49ers. They drafted him in the third round. He's a burner. Like, they've been looking for this type of a guy, and he makes for an awesome, just I'm not drafting Danny Gray, honestly, really, without Trey Lance, but you get two of those Deshaun Jackson-esque Danny Gray long dongs in week 17, and just enjoy your $2 million.
All right, so I am going to be serious about the San Francisco 49ers this one time and this one time only. Everything you just said is pretty much correct. Kittle in the 5th round is a ridiculous value. He's probably my favorite tight end right now, just based on where he's going. Ayuk is a great value. I don't even hate Debo, like for reasons we talked about before we brought the San Francisco 49ers up. And, oh my God, to say it. But when you get to Trey Lance, where he's getting drafted, he's a tier break for me, because I think it goes from Trey Lance and then it's usually like that Kirk Cousins, like, weird little area there. So you can get Trey Lance in like the 9th round right now. So if you get Kittle, and I'm going back to skinny stacks with Trey Lance personally. So Kittle Lance makes sense. Ayuk Lance makes sense. Everything with Lance right now makes sense, and I hate it. But yeah, it's the right play right now, and it hurts my soul.
And you always have the Danny Gray backdoor option if like something but it really does make sense. Like, and even if you don't want to take Danny Gray, Trey Lance is the archetype that, like, honestly, if you don't have one of those guys, having naked Trey Lance in your portfolio is fine. It's totally fine. His ceiling is unlocked with his rushing. Obviously, you need him to be a good passer, but his upside is it's Lamar. It's rookie Lamar.
Yeah,
like that's what we're talking about. Well, second year Lamar. MVP Lamar season is the ceiling.
All right, so I'm not going to do that again this year. But now we're on to the
clip that off.
Now we're going to the Arizona Cardinals, and I've been back and forth on them a little bit. I've never been a big James Conner guy. Obviously, I was wrong about him last year. He proved it. I think a lot of people were wrong about him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of question marks around this team. Like, what is Rondell Moore? What are we going to get with Kyler when he's trying to almost get a foot out the door? We got DeAndre Hopkins on the 6-game suspension. People are overdrafting Hollywood Brown at the beginning of the 4th round now. And I'm still drafting Cardinals, though, because now I love where Hopkins is going, because we're playing, like you say, we're playing for the playoffs. We're playing for week 17. And yeah, it sucks that you're not going to have Hopkins weeks 1 through 6. But if you're building your team properly, a lot of the teams that I have Hopkins on, he's my 4th or 5th wide receiver in general, mostly my 4th. So I already have the value over him with my other 3 wide receivers. And when he comes back, I should just be like rocket ships at the wide receiver position usually. So, and if you're building a separate way, if you are building one of these hyper fragile teams, yeah, you got to find a way to tread water for a while. But now you've got a hyper fragile team with wide receiver X, whoever it is, and then Hopkins as your number 2 in general. So I'm stacked, but don't go out of my way, because I still love Kyler. I mean, even if he's not going to be in Arizona anymore, he still needs to play football and show that he's a top 5 quarterback in the league to move anywhere. But I do have a little bit of reservations with them.
They're really interesting. The nuke thing is an issue, because it boosted Hollywood's ADP in such a way that it made them a really tough stack, actually. Yep. Because you have their wide receiver 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it, with Nuke versus Hollywood, like coming back in 6 weeks, and like how do you figure that whole thing out? You know, I really like Hollywood, and I think he is a pretty awesome target, but the steam has gotten pretty crazy. I mean, we're mid to late third round now on Hollywood Brown is tough. And so I've taken still a bunch of him, mostly because I think the entire market is inefficient. So I'm willing to like go maybe a little bit over the top for a guy on an offense that I want to take. And again, for the millionth time, week 17, this is a game I'm really excited for. I think both defenses are really going to stink. And I think Arizona is going to have a really awesome offense. We talked about Pitts and such. And so give me Hollywood. I'm still taking Connor. Give me Darrell Williams. Give me Rondale. Nuke, I am curious about your takes on Hopkins. How are you, like, because I want this team and I want these stacks, but I've been really, really struggling to make it work like in practice, in drafts, because like Hopkins still doesn't go at a cost that like I really love. You mentioned I have more Hollywood than I probably should at this cost, but Hopkins, how are you handling him given his current ADP?
It really depends on your build, I think. So for me, if I'm building where I'm going with sort of almost like a 0 RB approach, and I'm just trying to get strong at every other position, and I'm sort of punting off the running back spot a little bit. So if I'm going in the first 5 to 6 rounds, I'm getting 3 or 4 wide receivers. I can be getting Kyler Murray in the 5th, and then I'm getting, Waller in the 4th, let's say, just throwing that out there, or even if you wanted to go Pitts. So if you're going wide receiver Pitts, like something like this, a 0 RB build mostly. Hopkins is your 4th wideout, and it sucks because he's gone for 6 games. But like I said, once he comes back, that team is wheels up at that position.
Loaded. Yeah,
and you're absolutely loaded, and you can still get great guys behind him. And you only need a draft. That's one of the ones where you can do a 7 wide receiver draft. You're probably still drafting 8. But yeah, I mean, it really depends on your build. I don't think you ever want him to be, you don't really want him to be your 1st or 2nd wide receiver off the board.
No.
Because you're giving up too much at that point. But if you're going for one of those builds, I think I'm grabbing him almost every time if I can.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure that part out. But stack, only because the nuances of the team are tough, but they're a stack, but don't go out of my way. I'm very excited for this team.
Yeah.
I think the addition of Hollywood is like super underrated. Like that's what he's literally what they've been missing. And honestly, this is the best thing for him too, to go get in this offense as opposed to the Ravens.
Here's an exercise for you. The next time you go to do a puppy and it makes sense for you to do a 0 RB build, try to make it a point to do a Kyler Hopkins stack and see how you like it. Like don't go crazy for it. But when you're building a 0 RB team, try to make that stack and see how you feel about that team.
I like it. Also shower narrative.
Yep.
That's Best Ball Moderate says.
And
they're like the same size too. So does that have anything to do in this? Like if one guy in the shower is like 6'4", the other one is like 5'9", I feel like it doesn't work as well.
Yeah, but they're both
they're eye level.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. They're like tiny. They're like smaller than both you and I. So like it works really well in the shower.
And they're only taking the shower together because one has to stand on the other's shoulders to turn the water on.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So now we are going to end with the Super Bowl champions, the Los Angeles Rams, not the St. Louis Rams, the Los Angeles Rams. So, I mean, is
it me or you? I don't remember.
It is you.
Ooh, good question. So, Cooper, my biggest issue with the Rams is that I actually don't have a ton of any Ram other than I know I want Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
And so it's like Allen Robinson is fine. I'm not really taking Cam Akers, but if you wanted to make a case for Cam Akers, I think that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Darrell Henderson is in a tier of all the other handcuff running backs, right? He's in the same tier as Isaiah Spiller, Rashad White, who we talked about. He's in this tier of all those other handcuff backs, and I like him. I'm actually taking quite a bit of Darrell Henderson, but they're an offense I know is going to be awesome again. And like, I'm excited for their offense, but like, I don't really take Van Jefferson. I'm certainly not taking Kyron Williams. And so it's like, I don't know. I don't really take Cam Akers. So it's like, if I don't get a top 3 pick, I'm not getting Cooper Kupp. And then like I sprinkle in Allen Robinson and I take Darrell Henderson. So what is that? Every 5 drafts? And like, I don't know. You just take the Rams when it makes sense, because they're an elite offense, but their best asset is a top 2 pick.
Right. And it makes it tough. And the other guy I don't think you mentioned is Tyler Higbee. And it goes exactly to your point. I take Higbee when it makes sense. So like, I'm not going out of my way to take Higbee, but the few Stafford teams I've had, which are generally Kupp, I'm double stacking, because Stafford's a quarterback I do want to double stack. Mm-hmm. So I do have not a lot, but when I'm taking Stafford, it's Kupp, Stafford, Higbee, just to have a double stack with them. But I like Henderson in the 14th. I think Henderson's a great pick in that range. We saw what he can do when he has the volume. So if I can get him that late in the draft, why wouldn't I be taking him there? So
we also saw him 1 game sample, but Akers being back and in the Super Bowl, Henderson took all the pass game work from Akers. And so like, does that mean anything? I don't know, probably not, but it's at least like a morsel of something to latch onto from. He's not necessarily just like Rashad White, where you're like, you need Lenny to get hurt for Rashad White to be something. It's possible Henderson can have some standalone value.
Yeah. So for me, they're stacked, but don't go out of my way. Like I'm not over actively trying to do it, but
this is who I was going to bring up is Tutu. And if you want to take, if I'm touting Danny Gray, I have to tout Tutu in the same light. But I talked about this with Davis. So how gal-brained are you willing to get like on these offenses with this kind of thing? This team traded up, right, to go get this kid in the 2nd round last year. He obviously basically just redshirted last year for the Rams. He weighs about as much as one of my dogs. He'll blow away in a very strong wind, but he was like crazy productive at Louisville. Like if you ignored the fact that he's 5'8", 130 pounds, you would think this dude was a superstar prospect. He was unreal. And then he got 2nd round draft capital. Now we're just like out on him because they have 3 wide receivers that go in front of him. But we take other teams 4th. I just talked about Wan'Dale Robinson. He might be the 4th wide receiver on the fucking Giants. And I'm drafting him, and I won't draft the 4th wide receiver on the Rams. And so I do think these little, we're talking about over 150. I'll take Tutu a handful of times, but I do think it's at least we should bring it up.
I agree. And there's sometimes it depends on your team again, which, like it's kind of like a get out of jail free card to say, but realistically, there's teams sometimes where once I've drafted 16 players, I'm like, this is exactly the type of roster I wanted. And then I feel like my 17th and 18th round picks are luxury picks for the most part. Shout out to Pete again. That's what he calls them. But when I have those luxury picks, I should really be making them luxury picks. They should be a guy off the board like Tutu Atwell. I do it sometimes. I get real crazy and I'll grab Huntley as an 18th round pick just to be different. Huntley comes in and he's in the playoffs as the quarterback. What is my edge on the field going to be, right? If a team gets through, it's like crazy. So yeah, I think that's something we need to dive into more at some point is
also We should do a show. We should do a show on how to effectively approach the luxury 18th round pick.
Yeah.
Because I definitely don't have all the right answers, but it's something I spend. Jesus, what a sad life I have. Something I spend way too much time probably thinking about. But like you said, think about the Rams crush. Cooper Kupp is the guy you need to have, right? Matthew Stafford is the guy you need to have going into the championship. And Tutu is playing as the third wide receiver. And he puts up a Deshaun Jackson 3 for 120 and 2 in the right. It's like, we're talking about crazy lottery odds here, but like it's that's like, but you should build it on, as you said, a team that makes sense for it. Yeah. I put him on that team for that scenario, as opposed to, I like Zay Jones or Velus Jones or Danny Gray or whatever. Don't take those guys. Take Tutu on that team. And so I think it's a worthwhile thing to think about.
Yeah. So where are we going to put them? Stack, but don't go out of my way.
I think I said one off most drafts or every 5. Just because they're weird. It's a weird.
They are weird. They're hard to get. I mean, it's like you're not upset if you're stacked on the Rams. Obviously, It's just how do you get there sometimes. So yeah, and I also think they're one of those weird, like, if you have a Ram stack, it's like the same Ram stack that everybody has.
That's the problem. Everybody does the same shit. You take Kupp, and then you take A-Rob in the 5th, and then you take Stafford in the 8th or whatever. And it's like, congratulations, you have the same team that everybody. Same to your point about the hyper fragile and robust teams. Right. It's like everybody has the same ones of those. So that's where the Tutu or Higbee makes sense. Even Van Jefferson, I guess they can make sense on Ram stacks.
Yeah. Well, I think we've wasted everybody else's time stacking these.
This was mostly just helpful for me to hear you talk about some of these teams and like for us to talk through it. This was thank you guys for watching, but you just this was a research process, hour and a half or hour and 45 minutes for me.
Yeah, but I think that's the great thing about doing these shows. Like, it helped us in February because we just talked through every team. So now that the rosters have changed so much, we've talked about it again. And then when we do this in August, it's like, okay, now we're talking through all the injuries, all the other stuff that's happened. June 1st is tomorrow. That's when like some more stuff could happen. Like some teams might be different. Yes, it'd be some different cuts. So it's going to change again. But while you're drafting, you need to be up to date with the teams. And I think it's a great thing to do 3 times.
I totally agree. Thank you, Lundar, for the for the feedback. Anything else that am I missing? Am I missing anything? Obviously, we talked about the Royal Rumble at the top. I don't have. We'll have more on that, but I don't have anything else other than the regular. We're getting back to the. If you're watching this, we didn't have a draft. There we go. We didn't have a draft stream. Didn't have a draft stream yesterday because it was a holiday. But regular show schedule is back. Best Ball Bros tomorrow. Theory on Thursday, draft stream on Friday, and we'll get back into the groove and a lot more on the Royal Rumble. As you guys see, this freaking $300 championship belt that is spray painted.
That's what we do. We spray paint
That's
titles.
So good. It looks really good though. You did a really good job.
I may have a friend that's a painter, and I made sure that I wasn't the one that spray painted it. So
smart
yes.
Man.
Anyways,
right. It's your show. It's your show. I didn't mean to take over. You can sign us off.
No, you're fine. That's going to do it for this week on Spike Week. Erik's going to join us again next week, and we are going to do the AFC teams. We'll probably jump right into it so it doesn't go an hour and 40 minutes again. And but until then, adieu.